Okay, so Lydia, are you comfortable? You need anything before we make start?
No, thank you. I'm good. I don't need anything.
Cool. Okay, so I'm here talking with the amazing Lydia Carmichael, former Prima Ballerina and legendary dancing teacher. First, maybe you can introduce yourself for the record. Your name, what your profession was, etc.
Okay, my name is Lydia Carmichael, and I am a former professional ballet dancer. I then went on to teach ballet for the last 40 years.
That's perfect. Thank you, Lydia. Right. So I'd like to start off by asking you about where you grew up, how you got started in ballet, that sort of thing. Okay, so I know much of your story begins with your father, so perhaps we can start there. Tell me a little bit about him, and then perhaps go on to describe where you grew up.
Well, you're right, I guess. It did all start with my father. He'd been a professional gymnast in his youth, you see, and very good one, I believe, though he never properly made it into the big time. You have to understand, it was just after the Second World War, and I suppose there weren't many opportunities for male gymnasts in Nebraska at the time. I do know he traveled around the country a lot, competing and such, but then the Korean War happened and he got called up. That's when he was injured in both his legs, and, well, I guess it put an end to any gymnastics career he might have had.
And that's when he started training you instead?
He did. He allegedly told my mom that he'd seen something in me. I had good hips, apparently. Let me just say, you need good hips to be a ballet dancer. Anyway, I didn't know any better, so I danced around in front of him whenever I could, you know, around the dining table, in the kitchen. I remember I used to use the edge of the kitchen table as a bar.
And it was around this time that he took you to New York, and you got to see Margot Fonteyn dance?
That's right, for my 7th birthday. We caught the Greyhound to New York. It was only the two of us. Mom stayed at home. She didn't want to make the journey. Of course, I had never traveled so far away from home before in my entire life.
And you were going to see?
We went to see Swan Lake. Margot was playing Odette.
The White Swan, right?
That's right, the White Swan.
And can you recall much about that experience?
Images, mostly, moments, feelings, and the like.
It sounds like it left its mark on you?
Oh, absolutely. I do remember neither of us said anything until at the very end when the last curtain fell. He turned to me and all he said to me was, "Come on, let's go home." And to be honest, it was all he needed to say.
That's incredible. It's incredible that it made such a strong impression on you at such a young age.
Well, all I remember was it was like we both suddenly understood what we needed to do, right? We both knew what the job was.
And you were totally happy with that, I assume?
Here I was. I wanted to be Margot Fonteyn. I wanted to be up on that stage playing the White Swan. I mean, how could you not?
And so moving on, tell me a little about where you grew up.
Okay, well, we lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, in a suburb called Colonial Hills. It had only recently been built and was full of ranch-style houses with wide, sweeping lawns, you know, cherry blossoms, lots of concrete, that sort of thing. Blazing hot during the summer, freezing in the winter. My mom, she owned and ran a beauty salon down on the strip called Lincoln Ladies, which she had for years. After school, I would sometimes go down and sit amongst all her lady customers and listen to their gossip. Then, if she wasn't that busy, she'd do my hair all nice and such. I'd come out later looking and feeling like $1 million. Whereas my dad, by that stage, he'd gotten into selling insurance, which I know he didn't enjoy. But it was a job and it paid okay, I guess.
I also understand your mom was Miss Nebraska once?
Yeah, that's right. Which I have to say, she never quite forgot to remind everyone about.
So then you go on to apply to the School of American Ballet. Tell us a little more about that.
Well, it was my dad who applied to the school for me. Behind my back, I should add. He only told me about it after he'd received a letter inviting me for an audition.
Which must have come as a bit of a surprise for you, to hear that you'd been invited all the way back to New York again.
It kind of was. But then he did qualify it later by saying that the only reason he didn't tell me was just in case I didn't get it. I suppose he was only looking out for me. And he was probably right. I guess I might have done the same thing if I had been him, you know?
Well, you were obviously good enough, because shortly afterwards they sent you a letter confirming that you'd been accepted into the school on a full scholarship.
That's right. Sadly, I found out a week after my dad had passed. He'd been a heavy smoker all his life, you see, and had died of heart disease. None of us found out until it was too late.
I'm sure he would have been very proud of you and what you had achieved. Had he known?
I think he would have been. I still like to think he was always looking down on me, and still is, hopefully.
So by now it was just you and your mom. Yet you still decided to leave Lincoln and head all the way to New York?
Well, it certainly wasn't an easy decision, I can tell you that. But there again, I wasn't about to turn down such a great opportunity. And I don't think my father would have wanted me to in any case, especially given how hard we'd been working just to get the spot.
I mean, you'd only just turned 16. So all of this change and upheaval must have been pretty scary for you?
I was absolutely terrified, but I didn't want to show it, especially not in front of Mom. But she told me to go do what I love doing. Anyhow, just as I was boarding the Greyhound, she handed me a small savings account booklet, which had a couple of $100 in it. And so this meant I had enough to keep me going for a little while at least.
I take it then that she didn't go with you? Did you even have a place to stay?
Yeah, I went on my own. She had an old school friend, Jocelyn, who lived in Brooklyn, and I went to live with her and her family. There was Frank, her husband, who worked nights. Brandon, their eldest, who was a year older than me. He had a massive crush on me, which I didn't appreciate at all. Then there was Bailey, who I roomed with. She was a year younger than me, and she was the daughter my mom never had. All pink and girly. And finally, there was Travis, who was 9. And he was a right little prip.
So tell me what New York was like at that time. Obviously a big change from what you were used to. It was being run by George Balanchine at the time, the famous dance choreographer.
It was, though we never got to see him much. He'd swing by the dance studio every now and again just to see what we were up to. I have to admit it was a little weird at first, but I guess he just wanted to see that we were all working, which I was at least. Luckily for me, my dad taught me to appreciate just how hard you have to work. He'd say when I was having a particularly bad day, he'd say I could always back out if I wanted to, get a job down on the strip like my mom, and marry a jock and have a ton of kids. He said the world always needed checkout assistants and hairdressers.
So you were living with Jocelyn and traveling to school every day, all the way from Brooklyn. That must have been pretty exhausting for you?
Well, I'd have to be out early every morning, about 6:30 a.m. usually. Classes started at 8:30 on the dot. And if you were late, then you got a red mark.
A red mark? What was that all about?
It was a mark against your name in the roll call. We all assumed that it meant you weren't dedicated enough. The more you got, the less likely you were to progress. Well, that's what we all believed anyway.
So how many did you get?
None. Nada. Because I was a good girl.
Okay. Okay. So you eventually move out of Jocelyn's and you move up into Hell's Kitchen in the West Village.
That's right. I'd had enough of living in Brooklyn. Jocelyn was nice and all, but I wanted to get a place of my own. And by that stage, I met Betsy, who subsequently became my best friend. We moved in together into this tiny apartment overlooking Clinton Park on 52nd, just off 11th Avenue. It had one toilet between 15 of us, separate families, you know, all living on the same floor. The best part was that it was only a few blocks away from the school, so for Betsy and me, it was perfect. Each of us got jobs. Betsy got a job serving pints downstairs in O'Harrigan's on the ground floor. She lied about her age because we were only 17 at the time. It's funny, he asked her in the interview if she had any Irish in her, and she told him no, and that she didn't want any either. Apparently, he burst out laughing and gave her the job on the spot. Meanwhile, I got a job a few blocks away in Marchetto's, which was an Italian restaurant over on 61st, which I loved. It was loud, chaotic, busy, and the food was to die for. Mr. Marchetto would come up to me and wrap an arm around my shoulders, and he'd pull me in and say to me, "Lydia, you need to put some fat on your bones. You're too skinny." Italian men, they don't like skinny women. Yeah, I know, right? He'd then go on to say, "You should marry a nice Italian boy who will look after you and fatten you up."
Well, you certainly couldn't say that nowadays.
No, you certainly couldn't. But then again, those days were different. And to be honest, he treated me like one of his own, you know. He looked out for me. He even invited me to Gloria, his daughter's wedding. I took along Betsy as my plus one, and I introduced her to Nico. They both hit it off straight away and disappeared for an hour together later on in the afternoon. After that, old Marchetto didn't put his arm around me so much anymore or mention how skinny I was.
It sounds like the dynamic between you both had changed somewhat.
It had, for Betsy as well. Anyway, after that, I decided to move on, both from the apartment and the restaurant. Betsy now had Nico, and I was getting tired of sleeping on the couch and being woken up by them all the time. So I went back to Jocelyn's for a bit until I could straighten myself out and find a new job. She didn't mind. I think she was just pleased to have the extra cash.
And how was school going at this time? By now you'd successfully progressed into your second year.
Yeah, they called it the spring workshop, and it's kind of like the exams at the end of the school term. Only these were seriously important. If you didn't get selected, then you couldn't progress, which meant you were out.
But you obviously made the cut because you did get selected.
Well, I had to. I mean, I had no intention of going back to Nebraska. So I worked really, really hard.
I mean, this was still something you enjoyed doing, right? You still wanted to be a prima ballerina?
Well, of course I did. I mean, I wouldn't have stayed otherwise. I mean, who'd put themselves through so much if they weren't dedicated enough? Betsy left, though. She'd gotten herself pregnant. No one else knew except for Nico, of course, and myself after she'd told me. In the end, they decided to get married. She invited me to the wedding.
And yet she didn't ask you to be her bridesmaid. Why do you think that was?
Because she'd already asked her sister by the time she told me, apparently. Which was totally fine. She seemed happy, I guess, which was the main thing. However, I do remember old Marchetto coming over to me and whispering in my ear that he'd have preferred it if it had been me marrying Nico instead. But then straight afterwards, he shrugged his shoulders and grumbled, "What can you do?" After that, I kind of lost touch with Betsy. I have an old letter and a photograph of her somewhere. Maybe I'll try and contact her again, see what she's been up to. We'll see, I guess.
So by this time, you were well into your second spring workshop. Tell me about that. How was that going for you?
Well, I was already beginning to receive some serious inquiries from various dance companies around the country who'd seen me perform. There were invitations to audition for various parts, you know, but none of them really appealed to me. They were mostly for mediocre roles, which I didn't want.
So you're telling me you didn't go to any of them?
I guess in hindsight, I probably should have, maybe. Maybe it was a bad move on my part because I could have gotten a lot more experience at the time. I'm sure my father, if he'd been watching, would have yelled at me. But, you know, I can only tell you how I was feeling at the time.
It was also around this time that you first met the incredible Suzanne Farrell. Tell me how that transpired.
Well, she'd just returned from Europe and had begun working with Balanchine again. I guess they'd resolved all their problems, and they were working on Don Quixote.
I imagine she would have been quite an intimidating figure, suddenly descending on the school like that.
Well, she was. She was the specter looming over all of us. Her photographs and posters were everywhere. Each of us in the class was privately hoping that we'd become Balanchine's next muse. But I guess that door was now firmly slammed in our faces. I was feeling a bit upset, to be honest. I guess other people were as well. But at the end of the day, it only made us work harder. The upcoming spring workshop was for a place with the New York City Ballet. It was the route Farrell had taken, only she'd done it after only 1 year.
And what year would this have been?
This would have been 1975.
I mean, a lot was going on in American ballet at this time, a lot of upheaval, a lot of changes.
Well, that's right. I mean, Farrell had come back for one. Then we had the Russians. The Bolshoi were touring the country and kicking our asses. So for all the rest of us, and for me especially, it was really important that I progressed.
This is when you noticed Balanchine himself starting to become more involved.
Yeah. We all knew that he was going to be involved in the selection process in some way, but we knew nothing more, except maybe the fact that he had invited Farrell to do a workshop with us. Everyone was there that day. And I mean everyone, each of us hoping that she might sprinkle a little fairy dust on us. She was so beautiful and graceful and elegant when she came into the studio. I think all of our hearts stopped. Balanchine then came in behind her, and he took a seat in the far corner where he could observe. That's when we all knew. This wasn't going to be any ordinary masterclass. This was going to be the actual selection.
You're making me nervous just thinking about it.
Well, you can only imagine how we all felt, because we were petrified, especially when she picked on each of us to perform the 1-minute piece we'd been asked to prepare. She reassured us that it was all simply to see what we had learned and that we were progressing, but in reality, we all knew it was really just to see how good we were. So anyway, she picks on a girl and asks her to perform. We all had one eye on her and the other eye on both Farrell and Balanchine. Well, to be fair, she watched each girl carefully. She wouldn't speak, she'd just point to the next one and so on and so on. Anyway, she pointed at me about 2/3 of the way through and said, "You."
Oh my goodness.
I know, right? Up until now, we'd had tears, falls, a twisted ankle, and a tantrum when one girl messed up her choreography entirely. I guess she was just really nervous at the end of the day. So anyway, I step forwards, and I know everyone's eyes are staring at me. So I take the center of the room, I tilt my chin up, and I strike one of Farrell's famous poses. And then I begin my piece.
And what piece did you perform?
It was a piece from their original Don Quixote back in 1965, which I'd been practicing for a few weeks now. He designed it especially for her. And I have to tell you, I performed it flawlessly. It was probably one of the best performances I've ever given. I danced it as if he had designed it specially for me. I was exceptional.
Did Farrell say anything to you? I imagine she must have been fairly surprised. Impressed even?
On the contrary, she didn't say a word. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. So once I'd finished, I simply returned to my spot. After a few seconds, I heard her call out someone else. And just as she did that, the girl next to me leaned over and whispered into my ear the word, "fuck."
What do you think she meant by that?
Well, at the time, I thought that everyone had been so impressed, but then I later found out that they'd all been watching Farrell's and Balanchine's reactions. Apparently, and I don't know this for sure, they were both looking incandescent with rage.
Really? Why? I mean,
because I'd stolen their work. I don't know. I think they were upset that I'd publicly humiliated her, like I'd rubbed her face in it, like it was a direct challenge to her, which it kinda was, if I'm honest. I know I could do it better than her, but I guess neither of them liked that.
So tell me what happened next.
I got thrown out. All they said to me was, I didn't have the right attitude. I had all the skills, but it wasn't enough, allegedly. They were looking for something else, and because of that, they couldn't see how I could progress. Of course, I tried challenging it, but I guess they'd made up their minds by that stage.
And so, how did you feel about that?
Oh, I don't know. Angry, as you can imagine, that something I'd worked so hard for, that I'd poured my heart and soul into, could be so easily destroyed. And simply because I'd done something to challenge them, when all I did was dance the very best I could. Anyway, I didn't let it stop me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. Okay, well done, Lydia. Great job.